Have you ever watched a show, fell in love, and you knew you wanted to be like them?
For me, that was Wonder Woman. A strong, powerful lead who wasn't afraid to get her hands dirty and always looked good doing it. So I want to cosplay her, or at least make the sword and shield for now. And I know I've been missing, but hopefully I'm back now. Life throws you stuff all the time and you just gotta deal with it. So let's get on making that shield.
So let's talk about the 3D files for this shield. I found an accurate model on Do3D, a site that I haven't personally used yet, but I've heard good things. I do recommend looking through the listing to see if the prop has been printed to make sure the models don't have any major issues. The second image shows a fully completed prop, so I was confident in going ahead with this model. Some advice I'll give you is to check the size of your prop before starting to print. In Mesh Mixer, head to Analysis on the left bar and then select Units/Dimensions. You can change the value from millimeters to a different measurement. Some listings will have the sizes, but I would double check. You don't want to get stuck with a massive print that looks way too big for you. Once you're happy with the size, it's time to slice it up so it can fit on your printer. If you have a large 3D printer, you're in luck, because you can probably split it into 4 to 8 pieces. I did 8 because it was faster and used less filament, but the trade-off was attaching more pieces together. Either or will be fine, just depends on what you personally want. I don't know why I just found out about this now. I watched several YouTube videos on Mesh Mixer and I've never seen this used, but if you drag your mouse to the outer circle, it will snap to the degrees that you want. So for mine, I did every 45 degrees, so each piece came out roughly the same size. Just make sure you mark what pieces is what, because, yeah. Each piece took around 11-12 hours to print, with no support, because instead of doing the 4 pieces, I did the 8 to not have that little support at the top. And if you have a smaller printer like the Ender 3, then you're shit out of luck because now you're going to have to slice it into even more pieces. Luckily, this file can be separated using Mesh Mixer. Mesh Mixer? Mesh Mixer. A 3D model is made up of objects that are shaped into the desired object. This model came with both merged and separated objects, which makes it much easier for smaller printers and more details. So you can separate the more detailed pieces and print it out using resin and glue it on afterwards. In hindsight, I totally should have done this with the outer pieces because sanding those was not fun. It'll definitely add a lot more work, but give you a cleaner result. As for the smaller printers, there's 2 ways you can do it. Keep it all together and split it into 9 pieces. Or split the bottom of the design into the 9 pieces and the top half into 4. It is much harder to hide the 4 seams that are going straight through the design than hiding the 2 seams that are running along the flat star shape. However, you will need to do some test prints to make sure that the top section will fit into the bottom section. As you can see here, the top won't need any support from this angle, but I do suggest a brim for skinny parts like this. I lost all the footage of me putting the shield together because my hard drive was full. And I didn't notice before I deleted it. I also lost all my footage for my 24-hour challenge, and now I can't prove to people that I actually did complete it in 24 hours. And yeah, you guys trust me, right? So here's the only footage I got of all the pieces apart. Something I started doing is pre-sanding all of my pieces before putting them together. I figured this would help because having a giant shield would be harder to maneuver around, and I gotta say, 10 out of 10 would recommend. I start with 80 grit sandpaper on my rougher areas and then swap to 120 for the whole thing. I didn't do much sanding in the divot part because luckily it printed well and filler primer should take care of most of the lines. It's also getting painted black, so no one can really see it anyways. After 120, I go up to 220 and then it's time to put the pie together. I use tape to hold one piece at a time and solder the joints together. After the pizza is assembled, then I use Bondo only for the seams. For the love of 3D printing, can you please stop putting Bondo all over your prints? That stuff is expensive and it's so easy to sand your 3D prints, even if it's PLA. After the Bondo is dry, sand with 120-220 grit on the seams, and then it's on to filler primer. And then start all over again at 120 until you are happy with the results. After it's smooth, do some 320 water sanding. If you'd like a video just about how I go about finishing my PL prints, leave a comment below. If you have anything you want me to cover in more detail, you can also leave that below. Make sure you hit that subscribe button as well, because I got some nice LED projects coming along. And now it's time for the attachments. Not going to lie, I haven't finished the attachments yet because I was waiting for my bracers to be done printing to figure out the length of the straps. One handle I printed for my hand to grip on, and the other I decided to make it with these Cosplay strapping anchors from Thingiverse. They are a thin design, so you have any curves on your project, you can heat it up and mold it to the inside of the armor. I used this technique on a Mando build before and it worked really well. I attached 2 of these across from one another for my straps to eventually be pulled through. I'll leave a link in the description bar below to these handy straps. Once I finally remembered to order some foam, I'll cover the entire backing with it to make it a little bit more comfortable for my hand to be pressed against it. If I'm going to take this to a convention all day, then I would like to be as comfortable as possible. On to the painting. For painting, I started with a semi-gloss black paint all over the shield. The design in the middle is pretty unique. I had to go over it multiple times with the black to make sure I got all the crevices, which actually helped with painting the center of the shield. The center design isn't all black, the highlights on the edges are gold. So the unique way each section is pointed, it will help when spraying the gold so it doesn't all become, well, gold. With the light dusting of the gold, the black will be left in the deepest part of the print. I've rewritten this 3 times already, so hopefully this makes sense. When it came to airbrushing, the more I moved my airbrush away from the center, the further I pulled away from the shield. This created a really nice gradient effect that I really liked. For the detailing part, I just stayed back and dusted with gold at a certain angle depending on the section to use that advantage of the uniqueness of the print. The only really painful part of this build is masking. Originally, I was just going to hand paint all the gold and only mask the main black circle part, but I decided after to finish masking it. If I was smart and thought ahead and printed the detailed parts separately, that would have been so much easier. However, I did give up on the lines and just hand painted that at the end. Cover it all with the top coat and it's done, besides the back that I've kind of neglected.
With that, the shield is complete and stay tuned for more 3D printed props including some LEDs. And now, onto the montage.